Thank you. And we are recording, just in case you're tuning in right now. We just approved minutes from the previous meeting. All right, moving on to outside the rail. I know we have Candy to address the board on matters on the agenda. Candy, the floor is yours. Just give us your full name and address for the record.
My name is Candy Jones. I live on Church Street in Rutland. I have been a longtime resident of Rutland. I attended both of the recent protests at the city residence that was flying a Confederate flag, and I'd like to say a couple of things. These protests were meant to bring this darkness to the light, to show community solidarity in opposition to racism in all forms. The protest's original intent of being non-confrontational and non-escalatory was not adhered to by some of our protesters, and things were said to the residents that went beyond the issue at hand. For that, I apologize. But the issue at hand is the display of a symbol that stands for white supremacy, bigotry, and hatred. It is offensive, demeaning, and intimidating. At this time, leaders at the highest levels of our government are embracing these symbols and speech to energize their supporters and cause derision among us. Now, it is important that the governing body of the City of Rutland, Board of Aldermen, and the Mayor denounce and condemn such displays, as well as any racist speech, action, or intent. By the silence of omission, racism is condoned. Rutland must be better than that. Rutland is better than that, and now it is time for you to take a stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman Humphrey.
Thank you, President Wickham. I think I lost my video here, but I had prepared a statement as a point of privilege for later on, but it speaks to this, so I'd like to respond if I could, please.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Candy, for speaking outside the rail to us tonight. I would like to state very clearly and firmly that as an alderman, I do recognize the Confederate flag as a symbol of hate in our community. Its popularity stems from and represents attempts to stifle the progress of the civil rights movement and maintain segregation within communities. As an alderman, it is important that I consider how my actions impact our entire community, regardless of race, income, education, or lifestyle. Some of my lived experiences in Rutland include shopping, exercising, advocating for a child, interacting with neighbors, protesting, getting a haircut, observing public art, reporting a crime, and having a simple disagreement with another community member. A person of color may experience our community in some ways the same as I do. In other ways, our lived experiences may be different. It's important that I listen to and believe the experiences of others if I'm trusted to have those experiences shared with me. I have a draft resolution I'd like to share tonight in regards to Ms. Jones' comments. I don't think that we as a board are ready to send this to committee yet, but I would like to put it out there as food for thought to consider for at a future time. Most of this draft was written and shared from a group of residents, and I've made some edits to that they are aware of. The draft resolution is as follows. Whereas the Rutland City Board of Aldermen acknowledges and upholds the First Amendment right to free speech for all Rutland citizens, and whereas the board also acknowledges the pain and anguish caused by public displays of racist and white supremacist symbols and hate speech in our community, specifically including swastikas and the Confederate flag, be it resolved that we firmly and unambiguously condemn the display of these symbols of hate and any other expression of racism in our community. Our open-mindedness must know no boundaries, and we must welcome and respect residents and newcomers of all races, ethnicities, and religions. That's all I have for tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Alderwoman Humphrey. We are still Alderman Attore, do you have a follow-up to this?
Thank you. I am very appreciative of the comments that Alderwoman Humphrey has made. I'm in support of that resolution. To her point, perhaps there needs to be a longer discussion at committee. I'm not sure if now is the right time to send to committee, but I would be in full support of that resolution as it was written. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Attore. Any other comments or discussion regarding this issue? Alderwoman Ryan.
I want to echo Chris and Melinda, and I fully support the resolution. I think that it's the right step to take. So I'm with you, Melinda.
Thank you, Alderwoman Ryan. Any other comments pertaining to this particular issue? I'm seeing and hearing none, so we're still outside the rail. Do we have anyone else to address the board on matters not on the agenda? Hearing none, we are on to communications from the mayor. Mayor Allaire.
I'm all set tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Next, we have additions and deletions to the agenda. Attorney Bloomer, I believe you have an executive session.
Yes, if you wouldn't mind adding a short executive session regarding pending litigation.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion that's been seconded. A short executive session to the agenda. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? No. Motion carries. We'll add it to the end of the agenda. Any other additions or deletions to the agenda? I am hearing and seeing none. So we are on to reports and letters from department heads and officials. Up first, Treasurer's Report, June 5th, 2020.
Thank you. I sent something out late this afternoon. I think it was after 5, just summary highlights and summary expense reports and stuff for June 30. The June reports should always be reviewed preliminary because the auditors will be in making adjustments, so things could change based on those year-end adjustments. But having said that, I still want to go through the report real quickly and highlight some of the things that I noticed in looking. Bank balances right now, the city, in all city accounts, there's about $9.5 million, 2.1 million in pooled cash. The pooled cash is the general fund and proprietary fund balances. Looking at the pooled cash, the water fund has approximately $113,000 and $75,000 in the parking fund cash balances. This, with a collection coming up for water and sewer, these balances will improve. The sewer fund has a large due to the general fund of $643,000, and the transit fund continues to carry a balance due to the general fund. The sewer fund is the active fund with some of the construction projects. So that $643,000 due to really reflects reimbursements that are pending. So because we've spent some money on those projects and just don't have the funds available yet. Moving on to delinquencies, I did want to point out that in March we had, I think, 8 tax sales scheduled. So I am rescheduling those, and we will be holding those tax sales at the CSJ facility so that we have enough room for those. So if you see that in the paper, you'll be aware of that. I also looked, end of year delinquencies are high. We knew that was coming at about 1.9 million for delinquent tax for the end of the the year. On the balance sheet, the unassigned fund balance for unadjusted is about 2.14 million, and we're going to maintain a 9% is the plan for 2021. I had detailed expenses and revenues for the end of the year by department. If anyone has specific questions on a department or on the notes there, I know you got them late, but most departments were really right on target for the period. But I did note that if you look, DPW really contributed with some significant offsets with a 90% on expenses for the year. So
I need to interrupt. I need to know what paper she's talking about. I have about 18 pages from the treasurer, and I still can't figure out which one she's on.
Oh, I'm sorry. That would be,
Yeah.
I had sent, at 5 o'clock, I had sent a memo, highlights, and then I had summary detail attached to that. It would have been page 3 in what I sent later today.
Can all wait.
I'm sorry, I guess I'm lost here. I got proposed fiscal year 21 general fund appropriations, calculation of anticipated, I would say
That
fiscal
was,
year
okay.
20.
That was related to the tax rate. So I sent
Okay.
something later today, June, financial information.
Okay, I got a hand, budget cut.
Sammy, it's a white page. So
They're all
Sammy,
white.
well, no, but it's just kind of free type. It says pool cash, those type of things. It's not her regular format. It might look a
Okay.
little bit.
All right, well, I guess I didn't get it. I thought I printed everything out, so I was interested in it. It's very good information. I wanted to see it, but thank you.
Okay, well, feel free to contact me if you have questions, and I'll go through it in a little more detail than what I did was outline by department on the expenses where each department ended the year, whether they were above budget or below budget, and how that worked. In total, I did note that the general fund, we're focusing on the general fund right now, but the general fund was at 98% when you take out the unbudgeted grants and whatnot in there. So it looked pretty good. And I have to say that in March with COVID-19, you know, all departments took some steps to cut some expenses. So it's a good thing that we did to end the year where we did. So, and revenue, we had been tracking on the budgeted non-tax revenue, and we noted some significant increases there. Recreation, DPW had increases, and pilot was up quite a bit for the year. One thing in recreation, you'll notice the CSJ revenue, a lot of that is offset to expenses in CSJ. So just wanted to point those out, and also outlined just briefly on the water and sewer funds where those were tracking. The revenues in water and sewer were below target. In the fourth quarter, I know just from speaking with the commissioner, the fourth quarter billing was really off, largely due to consumption and COVID-19. So that you'll notice that in the financials. And I apologize because I did not have the RA activity. I need to get that to you perhaps at the next meeting. And right now, we're really going to start working on audit adjustments and working with the auditors for year end. So this is a quarterly report, so if we want to look at it more closely in committee, I'm happy to do that. So if Alderman Attore, if you feel we want to refer that, or
Alderman Attore.
Thanks. I'm happy to refer it if we have questions. I know Alderman Caruso seemed to be interested into it. So I will refer the fourth quarter reports to Finance Committee.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to refer. It's been seconded. Is there any discussion on this issue?
If I may, Mary, Mr. Chairman, Mary, if it's not too much, because I know you're getting ready for other things, is it possible to look at this quarter versus a year ago to see just kind of how far off we are?
okay. Yeah, it is. Yep. Yeah, I can do that for that Finance Committee, some comparisons.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions?
I just want to thank the treasurer for what she's done, and it would be nice to have that meeting and learn more about this. It's very comprehensive and actually very well done. So I look forward to learning more and working with her, and I thank her.
Alderman Attore.
Thank you. I just wanted to say my appreciation for the department heads and the administration in both keeping the expenses down for this year, as we knew, but also that non-tax revenue number is really significantly higher, and it will have saved the taxpayers next year in having that additional $300,000 or $400,000 in non-tax revenue. So well done to all the department heads and to the administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Attore. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of referral, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Anything else for us, Treasurer Markowski?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next, we have DPW Commissioner. Request for professional services proposal. This is pages 1 through 3 of your packet.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Is Jeff here?
Yes. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to attempt to answer them.
I'll make a motion for debate. I move to authorize the mayor to issue a request for proposals for engineering and related services to assess and characterize subsurface contamination at the Spruce Street Highway Garage.
Very quickly, we have to take the vote first. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. And Alderwoman Davis just made a motion. Was there a second to that? All right. I see one from Alderman DePoy. So if motion seconded, is there any debate, discussion, or questions of Commissioner Weinberg? Alderwoman Davis.
So, Jeff, in reading, this was due July 1st. I think at least by the state letter that you had to have a response July 1st. Anyways, so you anticipate costs $25,000 to $50,000 and possibly some assistance from the state. If you don't get it, I'm assuming that you're going to find that within your existing budget.
Well, at this point, I have absolutely no idea. This is a little frustrating because these issues are issues that are 28 years old. The state apparently dropped the ball back in the 1990s. and apparently again sometime in the early 2000s when it came up related to a redevelopment authority study that was done that was indirectly related. And a while back, I received a communication from the Department of Environmental Conservation indicating that they needed to have additional studies done to determine so that they can put a check mark in the box and close the site, quote unquote, from a standpoint of open contaminated sites in the state. We pushed back pretty hard on that because we felt that the city had done everything that was asked of it back on a contemporaneous basis and had documentation to support that. The state did not accept that because they didn't have a letter in their files indicating, nor did we, indicating that they had closed, quote unquote, the site. Then recently they came forward with this, they had discovered this other information somewhere in Montpelier or wherever that was a redevelopment authority study done for the rail yard project back in the early 2000s. And that provided some additional information regarding Spruce Street. And the state did request at that time that the testing wells that had been, monitoring wells that had been installed would be maintained by the city. And then again, never heard another thing from the state. And so lo and behold, these many years later, decades later, now they're coming forward because they've discovered that they didn't follow up and essentially demanding that we do all of this work. I find it a little offensive, to be honest, but I did get an extension to the end of August for getting the evaluation or the scope of work by the consultant. We probably won't have it done by then. I'll seek another extension because our process simply won't allow it to be done by that period of time, but probably by the end of the year, I would think we might be able to get that to them. And in the meantime, the consultant, whoever we ultimately hire, will do this in phases if we structure the request for proposals correctly, which we will. And that is that the first phase would be the work scope and budget and funding sources that the consultant will research and propose. And that will be a few $1,000s that we can certainly afford and answer that first question. As for what that scope is going to cost and how long it's going to take and how we're going to pay for that, we won't know until the consultant completes their first work. And so I can't really answer your question. All I can say is I think it's a bit outrageous that we're put in this position 28 years after the fact.
So, Jeff, so this study, whatever we're calling it, is to determine that the site is contaminated, but it's not making us clean it up.
Well, no, the determination that there are mostly motor fuels from tanks, buried underground tanks that were there back and pulled out in the early 1990s. When those tanks were pulled out, site characterization was required, and it was done at the city's expense. That information was provided to the state. The state requested additional information. The city hired Dufresne Henry at the time. For about $5,000, they completed their work, and that was provided to the state. But the state never followed up, essentially, and so they didn't, close the loop on the thing in terms of, okay, we approve this, or this is what you have to do. The only thing we've received from them up until this latest go-round has been, and this was just discovered recently, was an instruction back in 2005 or 2004, sometime in that time frame. I don't have it right in front of me. That the test wells that were part of the redevelopment authority study, a lot of money's been spent looking at the site, that they would be maintained, and to the best of my knowledge, they're still available on the site. The consultant that we would hire, part of their evaluation would be to inspect those wells to determine whether they're still useful and to determine whether additional wells would have to be drilled for whatever reason. ultimately, once the work plan is approved and funding is found and the work plan is completed and they do all of their analyses, we would get a set of recommendations that would then be sent to the state, and they would either approve or request modifications, and then ultimately determine whether or not the site can be closed. And you know, it is highly likely, and I hate to predict the future on this stuff, because if you'd asked me, I wouldn't have believed that this was possible. But it is highly likely that, given that this was not exactly a Superfund site back in the day, or we certainly would have been required to do something more than we've done before this, that it'll probably be a requirement to the effect that we keep the area paved and monitor it periodically for some period of time. That, however, is probably going to cost us upwards of $50,000, which we don't have budgeted. Now, the Petroleum Cleanup Fund can probably pay for a good chunk of that. We don't know how much, but that's what the consultant would be able to explore and see if any other funding might be available. But it's frustrating that we have to go back and do this all over again because the state dropped the ball before.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner?
Did you call on me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you. What happens if we don't cooperate? I mean, it seems that we need to do this, but what happens if we don't?
Well, I've pushed back about as hard as I can at my pay grade. And we've challenged some of their early demands on legal bases that I happen to be aware of because I used to run that department. And that's when they backed off for a few months, but then they came forward with this new information. And that is challenging for us, quite frankly. It's clear evidence that the state was involved in that early 2000s work and advised the city. But again, there was no follow-up on it. There was no specific instruction for us to do anything in particular or do additional studies at the time. But in any event, they do have the authority to require this. And technically, they have a list of all of these open contaminated sites. And the only way you can close them is for the state to approve a plan going forward. And they do not have, and I can't provide any evidence that we've provided them with a plan that they have approved previously. So apparently we get to do it again. I don't know what the legal ramifications would be if we were to resist more than I already have, which is sort of an administrative challenge. But that would be a better question perhaps for the city attorney. But I'm working on the assumption that at the very least, we should get the work plan done, get a good idea of what this is going to cost and where the money's going to come from, and then see where we stand at that point.
Any further questions for the commissioner? Seeing none, so we have a motion for the board to authorize the mayor to issue a request for proposals for engineering and related services to assess and characterize subsurface contamination at the Spruce Street Highway Garage. And that has been seconded. Seeing and hearing no other, Alderman Gillum. You're on mute.
Is there a price tag with that, or is there no cost or price with that, or this is just to get the price?
Yeah, this would be to get proposals from qualified engineering firms to do the work, and they'll lay out what the various components would cost. And I would want to pursue a package that would allow us to do it step by step and pull the plug at any of the key steps along the way, depending on where we are with the state on it. That would be my way I would structure it. We need at least, well, we would prefer to get at least 3 proposals, and then the recommendation for the consulting firm would come back to the board for your ultimate approval.
Okay, thank you. I apologize because I missed half the conversation because I'm having problem getting in and out here. I guess the internet is not doing well tonight, so I'm on the phone. Thanks.
Any further questions or discussion? Hearing is none. All of those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Commissioner Wenberg. All right, we are on to reports of standing committees, of which we have none. Reports of select committees, we have none. Reports of representatives. Alderman Attore, we have none.
Just wanted to quickly update the board for the RRA. Matt Merritt has stepped down as commissioner, so there is an open seat on the RRA.
Thank you, Alderman Attore. Any other reports from representatives? All right, otherwise we have none. Petitions, letters, and miscellaneous communication, we have nothing. Board of Control Commissioners, we have nothing. Is there any unfinished business to come before?
Mr. Chairman, just a question. What about the tax rate? We set the municipal side, but we did not set the joint tax rate.
Well, I guess, Mary, do we have any say over the joint tax rate, or are we going to accept the educational tax rate?
I don't believe that every year we set the municipal rate and then in the minutes formally approve the education rate, the homestead rate and the non-homestead rate. Those rates are set by the state of Vermont, through the education department. So I don't know, maybe Attorney Bloomer could answer to that.
Wouldn't hurt to vote on it tonight if you've got the numbers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I guess I don't know, is it me? I'll just state what we had from restate what we had from Thursday night. Approved out of the meeting was the municipal rate at 1.7676. And then on Friday, received notification of the non-homestead tax rate at 1.6978 and the homestead tax rate at 1.5147.
So, if I may, Mr. Chairman, could the treasurer, we know that the municipal tax rate, we had a negative effect by the work that the department heads, then the mayor did, and then the board itself. Could you ask if we could ask the treasurer to what will be the impact from the non-residential and the homestead tax rate?
Okay, I had ready the homestead tax rate will increase on 150,000, 85.50. The municipal rate savings was 1303. So the total tax increase to the taxpayer for homestead was 7247. So let me just quickly, I just have to look at I didn't have the non-res rate. So if you just want to wait just a minute.
If I may, while Mary's calculating, that's a concern of mine, especially, well, all of it is, but the non-residential also will affect those businesses because they're considered non-residential when that tax rate is applied. And we know how fragile these businesses are at this time, with certainly working at 50% capacity or less. or some of them haven't even had an opportunity yet to open. And I am concerned and question. I had a discussion today with a school commissioner just to fact find, I guess would be a good way to put it, is we get the tax rate. We know what that impact, we anticipate whatever the impacts are going to be post budget, but we also have an opportunity pre-setting the tax rate to look at that and make additional changes if we so choose. Apparently that doesn't happen on the other side, that it's submitted by the chief financial officer and then it's returned. And I think that causes, and this is my opinion and my opinion only, I think it causes a disconnect as far as to the residents and the business community, because they don't see that impact of their school budget in real dollars, and these are tough times. And I am quite concerned how, with the delinquencies, we have $1.9 million in delinquencies out there, and now we're going to add an additional X amount of dollars per quarter to the tax rate, and I am gravely concerned. Is there anything we can do about it? No. We certainly can't dictate to school commissioners, but I would hope that on the other side, we kind of we should be working together. We have a common goal in this community to make it affordable and to support our businesses. And I'm hopeful that the school commissioners take a look at that next time around and connect a little better to what's happening in the community.
Thank you, Alderwoman Davis. Alderman DePoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me all right? Okay. I have to agree with Alderman Davis on this. When you look at the amount of savings that was through COVID mid-March, I know the school shut down. I have a son, a stepson that are both in the high school. There were massive savings that came through the school department because of it wasn't necessary to staff the building the way that it normally would be. Whether it be some of the meals that were provided, I know that was way down. Food costs had to have been way down. You also have a lot of people that didn't need to be driving the buses or anything like that. So there were a lot of cost-saving opportunities. Let's put it that way. I don't know if the school department took to those opportunities of cost cutting and cost savings the way that the city departments here did. When you look at the police department had a surplus of $175,000. And, I was prepared last week to defend our police department and let them know what a good job they've been doing and return that $175,000 to them. But with COVID, with the amount of tax dollars that the shortfall, 1.9 million right now that is due the city that people just can't pay, to come in with a rate that raises people's taxes of this amount, I think is really short-sighted. I think it's something that's very irresponsible for the taxpayers of this area, and something needs to be done about that. I am not prepared to vote in favor of these tax rates. I know that the state law says that we're supposed to set the tax rate, but we also vote on that tax rate. And if there's not enough votes on this board to set that tax rate, it doesn't get set. So, I think that board over there, the school department in Longfellow, needs to reconvene in an emergency session and see what they can do about lowering or eliminating the increases that they're going to saddle this community with. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman DePoy. Alderman Garuso.
Yeah, I agree with the both of them, Alderman DePoy and Alderman Davis, but I get yelled at by Alderman Davis for going back so far. 25 years ago, I was after them because working in statistics and demographics, I know that the world was changing. People weren't having kids. I come from a family of 5 boys, and I don't have any kids. And the world's population was changing, and they were building, that school board was building a school system because they said the population was growing. We need more room. We need more room. We have excellent teachers. We're related to them. We're friends with them. It's not them, but it was the board that just seemed to spend and build these Taj Mahal schools and raise taxes and spend like there's no tomorrow. And we got a crisis. We have a crisis right now. A lot of businesses, and Alderman Davis is right, that are going to have a tough time with upper taxes and with things going up. I see a lot of businesses. That's what I do. I call on them all the time that are really, really struggling right now. And, we're trying to help, but they don't want to help. And I think the school board really needs to try, but they didn't do well 25 years ago at cutting things, and they just have this habit of spending. So I too will vote against any budget for them until they try to get their act together. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Garuso. Alderman Gillum.
Everybody's okay.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I agree with the other 3 that just spoke. I live on the western side of the city, and I would say at least 62% are rental units. Those are all commercial properties. We are going to crucify those renters on this side of the city. And I know there's some on your side of the city too. I know there's rental units all over the place. So people need to understand it's not just the residents, it's also the renters in these facilities that are going to get nailed. And this $1 million more on a $50 million program, and our share is only $15 million. I can't understand why they couldn't cut $1 million like we did on our side of the fence. They need to help us here because there's a lot of people hurting out there, a lot of people out of work out there. Our taxes, the people are falling behind on their taxes. People are unemployed. I think they're not sensitive to the situation, and I too will vote if it comes to a vote against this tax rate. I don't think it's fair. I think they need to go back and revisit it. And there's nothing to say they can't go back and cut the budget, because we did it on our side. No matter what the taxpayers had voted for, we can always go back and trim and get ready for what we're going to have trouble here for at least another 6 months. So I'm in agreement with the other 3 speakers. I think we need to send a message to the school board that this is not acceptable to the taxpayers, especially the ones who are really hurting right now. And the other issue is we are pushing to have people move here. Well, we can't have people moving here if these taxes keep going up and up and up. It goes against the whole grain of our program trying to get people to move here. So that's a double whammy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman Gillum. Alderwoman Mattis.
Thank you. I share all of the frustrations that have been voiced so far. The mayor and the department heads worked hard to make cuts to the budget that the voters already approved, and we were able to pass that on to the taxpayers. We made some pretty tough choices, and we went ahead. I'm frustrated because I don't know what the school board has discussed, what they're willing to discuss, what they're able to discuss. I just don't know. I would like to see them try to do what we did. And I guess I'm wondering, what are the legalities of, Alderman DePoy brought up, voting no and expecting that the school board will have an emergency meeting and try to make some cuts. But what are the real legalities of this? That's what I would like to know. Are we able to do that? What would happen if we did, and what would happen next? Can anyone answer that?
Thank you, Alderwoman Mattis. Attorney Bloomer, would you like to weigh in here on what our actual courses of action potentially could be?
Are you giving me an option, or you're asking me to?
I'm asking, in reality, what can we really do here? My understanding is have to vote to reconsider the municipal tax rate to do anything, and then it would be tasked to us tonight to come up with whatever cuts that we wish to make to our budget. But that unfortunately, we don't really have any control or say over the education budget.
Yeah, I'm not well versed in the sort of calculation or the process by which money goes to Montpelier and then is redistributed to the different school districts. So I imagine it's more cumbersome for them to go through the process that we went through at the end of last week. And I don't know, because it's not a dollar for dollar, if Rutland cut X amount, how they would calculate, how much of that would be savings in general to, our taxpayers on the education side. I think from a practical standpoint, Mary might be able to speak to when the bills need to go out. But if there's, I'm assuming there would be some lag time if anything can be done at all. And I don't know if that would start to butt up against when we would be trying to get bills out and letting people know what they owe. I mean, at the end of the day, the school systems in the state are going to get whatever they think they should get. There may be an opportunity to ask the school board to look into their ability to cut costs and whether there's an opportunity to somehow get a refund or rebate once taxes are paid. But my guess is, just because it's so complicated, that we would probably need to set the tax rate as they've given it to us, and then again request maybe that the school board look into the ability to make some cuts and what the benefit to the taxpayers would be.
Thank you, Attorney Bloomer.
So if I may, if we could just get the number for the impact for the non-residential tax rate, knowing that those are going to affect multifamily home dwellings and business.
Okay, so I did just figure that up. So compared to last year, if you had non-residential property last year, 150,000, based on the increase, you're going to pay 141.75 more on the education side. 1303 is the savings on the municipal side, for a total increase of 128.72 on 150,000.
So if I may, is that for non-residential?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And I have to express that I really feel like we don't have a lot of input at this point with resetting this rate. And here, like Matt had said, Matt Bloomer had expressed, like, we need to build this, and I'm not sure how much time we would have if there is any action to be taken. I was already had some concerns about receiving the rate relatively late to get everything scheduled to get this tax bill out. So I just wanted to mention that.
Alderwoman Davis.
So I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, because we have no authority over the school commissioners. And I'm hopeful that this discussion and this debate at least encourage the school commissioners to get a little connected to that tax rate. So when they pass a budget, they know how that plays out at the end, and what each and every taxpayer, what that impact of that school rate is. I encourage them to maybe have a meeting shortly before, similar to what we do, so they can feel and understand what that impact is, because I think there is a true disconnect, and I'm hoping that they can start connecting and getting more involved with the taxpayer burden.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Boy.
There we go. Sorry. So my biggest concern here is that we as a board sit here and we each individually, we have our vote on this board. And, you know, I've been told for 13 years that we must set the tax rate. Well, okay, fine, we must set the tax rate based on the budget that the school system has sent over to us. But that doesn't necessarily bind me as an individual alderman on this board to vote in favor of a tax rate that I think is going to be damaging to this community. And, you know, I just do not see myself voting for something that is going to, in my opinion, be detrimental to the taxpayers of this city at this point. You know, there may be other things that people think that I vote in favor of that they think are detrimental. You know, when it comes to the school system that has over a $50 million budget, and in very bad economic times that we're in right now, to come back with nearly $1 million in increased spending, I just think it's at this point, it's nothing that I can support. And if we vote this down to set this rate, it at least lets, you know, Mary, you're absolutely right. We have no say in the school budget and what they spend. It's you know, they develop their budget, they send it to the taxpayers on in March on city election day, and you know, so be it if it gets passed. But if that's the case, then don't send the rate, the education rate, in front of this board where I can vote my conscience, which is to say, no, it's too high. So, you know, just because somebody says, well, the board must set the rate, that doesn't mean that I have to vote in favor of something that is, you know, going to be increasing the taxes here in the city. Now, Mary, I have a question for you. And the question is you've given me how much a $150,000 house is going to see in increases. And I understand why that's the average or the median cost of or valuation of a house in this city. But we have a lot of houses in the city that are far more than that. We have some that are less, that are valued less than that. And once those numbers actually come out to people that say have a $200,000 house, that the number is a lot more than $70-something, okay? And there are a lot of houses that are valued at $200,000 or more. And it's going to be very destructive for those people as well to have to be paying a lot more in taxes. So what I'm getting at here, Mary, and my question to you is first of all, what is the overall increase? You know, is it $1 million? Is it 978,000? What is that total number that drives the $78 or $77 on a $150,000 house? And then I have, if I may, Mr. President, I have a follow-up question to that as well.
Okay. Last year, it's difficult to just do it without doing some calculations, and I'm not sure that it would be helpful. On the city side, this year we have an obligation to raise $18 million. After our adjustments, through Grand List, we have an obligation to raise amount to be raised based on your property value, $18,092,000, as compared to last year, $17,916,000 through the Grand List based on property values. On the education side, Homestead, in order to meet the Homestead needs in 2020, it was $6,423,000 you had to raise. This year, lower property values in the Homestead, $5.9 million, and on the non-Homestead rates, last year was $8.259 million, and this year we're raising $9.778 million. So I know that doesn't answer your question nice and clean, but it's all based on market values in the grand list. What's the market value of the homestead property? What's the market value? The assessed values of, I don't mean to say market value, the assessed values on the homestead property versus the non-homestead properties. But we are on the municipal side requiring raising quite a bit more, but we have an increase in the grand list, which is offsetting and helping the municipal side. So it doesn't answer your question. I apologize for that, and I know that, and I don't disagree with you. 150,000 is just a number that we've been using over the years. Now, I could take the time and spread out. If it's 200, if it's, and do the calculation. I'm not sure that will be helpful tonight.
Well, if I may, Mr. President, my point here is this: if it's $1 million in increased spending, that's what's driving it. It's probably not quite $1 million, but it's up toward $1 million. This, as been pointed out so far by previous speakers, this city has reduced its spending to the point where there's $15. Not a lot, but you know what? Every little bit matters. It's $15 going back to the taxpayer from the municipal side. And it's disheartening when, the city is doing its work in recognizing the difficulty the taxpayers are having in getting their bills paid, to then look at the tax rate that we have to set for the education side, and it's quite a bit more. Our schools are more than likely going to be a lot less than capacity. I think of Rutland High School right now because I have 2 kids in that school, and only freshmen are going to be going at full time at this point, and that could change because this seems to be evolving almost daily, at least weekly. And if you have such a low census or low population of usage in that school, then obviously you don't have the same costs. Your fixed costs are there, but they can be reduced. Your electric bill can go down. Your heating bill can be far less. I think that there are plenty of ways that the school system can save money right now. And I am not hearing, I'm not seeing any will on the part of that school system to reduce their costs and therefore lower the tax rate and therefore lower the tax bill for the people of the city. Not just the, people, the residential side, but as Alderman Gillum pointed out, Alderman Davis pointed out, Alderman Garuso pointed out, we also have those businesses that we have to think about that are so fragile right now that, even adding $77 or whatever to their bill, most of them, it's going to be a lot more than that. It's going to be crushing. It's going to be a crushing blow for them. So I'm not going to vote in favor of this tonight. No way.
Quickly, Treasurer Markowski, what would be the absolute drop dead date to get the tax bills out on time?
I apologize. I have scheduled a software company to come in on the 4th of August to run the bills, but what I need to do is order from the printer the tax bills with the tax due dates. We've already pushed those back 2 weeks so that so I don't have a large window of opportunity unless we want to do this indefinitely. I think that's going to impact our cash flow citywide. If we do that, what I was concerned about and what many towns are facing is because of delays in getting these rates out and stuff, you're going to be double billing. I don't want to be in that situation to the taxpayers. I don't think that would be good for the city taxpayers to be billing separately for the one time for the municipal side that we're aware of, and then again adjusting the bill later for the school rate. And I understand the frustration. I don't know if anyone was thinking that we needed to do something more on the municipal side to offset this or not. That's what I really struggled with on Friday. What obligation does the city side have to offset that, the increase on the homestead?
So I'm going to speak up, the mayor, if I could, to give my 2 cents. I've been listening to the debate. I just want to speak to that last point that the treasurer brought up. I would not be supportive of any further cuts on the municipal side, and I'll tell you the reason why. It's because we have, and the department heads in particular, have gone out of their way to bring back to the board significant savings that pare down those budgets to basically bare bones. We're able to deliver the services that the city taxpayers voted for in March, but nothing extra. I mean, we're literally, well, I wouldn't say on life support, but we're right down to as bare bones as you can. And I believe we've stepped up, which has been mentioned by a number of the aldermen, stepped up to the plate and done what we can do to help in this particular instance because of COVID and because of the fragility of your local businesses and the residential property taxpayers to address what needed to be done. And we went out of our way to do it. I don't believe, or I do believe that we have answered the call. I don't think there's any further cuts that can be made on our side. I just don't think that would be right. I think the responsibility lies elsewhere. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Allaire. Alderman Humphrey, I had you.
Thanks, Matt. Like others, I absolutely appreciate the work that Mary and others at City Hall have done to make those cuts on the municipal side. And like others, I am also frustrated at the increase on the school side. And I'm not as familiar with that budget as I should be to start making suggestions as where cuts should be, and that's on me for not being as familiar with it as I could be to make suggestions. But I'm going to offer an unpopular opinion maybe, or play devil's advocate here. I don't think it's fair to say that the school board as a whole is completely disconnected from how their budget impacts the tax rate. I think it's their responsibility to educate themselves on how that works just as it is ours. I'd also venture to say that, just because there's fewer people in those buildings, I mean, and I know maybe there was some expenses saved this spring, but as we look into going back into the buildings in the fall, just because there's fewer people in the buildings, those electric costs and heat costs don't necessarily go down. If anything, those heat costs may go up a little bit because it's a half-empty building. And I would also lob this out there that because of the way they're operating, they might have some added costs this year that were unexpected or changing as we go along. So I'm just as frustrated as everybody else, and I'm glad we were able to make the cuts we were on the municipal side, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm not familiar enough with their budget to demand cuts somewhere. I would like an explanation, but some of that was on me to do that work already, and I haven't done it. So thanks.
Thank you, Alderman Humphrey. Alderman Gillum?
Yes, are you there?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay, good, thanks. I'm very sorry, I had a little technical issue here, but we fixed it. I think we should put the motion on the floor and vote it down or up, send it back to the school board, and make a statement to the taxpayers that we don't like that rate as it sets right now. And I think it's just a statement from us. I know we can't stop the system. I know we can't set the tax, or we can't change the tax rate because it comes down from Vermont. But we can voice our opinion to the school board saying, wait a minute, this is not acceptable in this serious time that we're in right now. This is a very crucial time. And I think if we do our homework as government, which we should be doing, is level fund. That's all we're asking the school board to do, is just level fund where they were last year, just like we're doing this year. And I think we'll be cruising very nicely, and it'll be easier on the taxpayer. So I think a motion needs to be put on the floor and we voted either up or down, and the majority rules. And I'll go with that.
Thank you, Alderman Gillum. Very quick, Attorney Bloomer, you had a suggestion?
Yeah, I guess my suggestion, just in listening to the conversation, and again, I think thinking about it from a practical standpoint, I think we would be better served by voting the tax rate with the taxes that have been given to us by the state, but then having another motion where you ask the school board if they will look into the possibility of reducing their budget. And again, they could probably say no, but my guess is that they would, if requested, they would do so. But I just think that would be a better way to send the message, because one way or another, I think we're going to end up paying whatever the state tells us to pay. And if it means that Mary's scrambling or she's not able to get that bill out when she wants to, then I think we're just shooting ourselves in the foot to make a statement that we could do in a different way.
Thank you, Attorney Bloomer. Alderman Attari.
Thank you. So I absolutely 100% agree with the frustration that's being expressed here. But one of the interesting things that came out when the treasurer was talking about how much money we need to collect for the education tax, it doesn't add up anywhere close to the $54 million that the budget actually is for the school district. I believe she said it was something like $6 or $8 million for residential and 6 or 8 for non-residential. We're quite a ways away from the $54 million. So a dollar for dollar cut, the way that the administration department heads and we did on municipal side, isn't going to get us the same response. This is a question of how the state funds education. I think it would behoove us to learn more about the education funding, to figure out what is the tax rate, how does it come, and where is it set from, what is the opportunity that the school board has to make cuts, and what would those cuts be. We are a receiving town, so we do receive more than we pay in, or whatever, however it works. We receive more for our school district. We don't have to fund the $54 million straight up. I think it would make a lot of sense, and I will make this motion after we approve the tax rate, to send it to finance and have the school commissioners and the CFO of the school come and talk about their budget, how where they're coming from, and help us understand when we're setting this tax rate, because this is on us. We do have to set this tax rate. And I do think we need to set it tonight, because the trouble for the citizens, if we don't, I think is more substantial if we don't support this tax rate. We don't have to like it, but I do think we have to do it. But I think sending it to Finance Committee and having a discussion about how the education side works and sets the rate, and what they can do to cut future things, I think that would make a lot of sense. And it would also help the community, the citizens, know the work that these department heads, this administration, and the board did to lower the municipal side this time. So let's support the tax rate for now, and then have a motion to Finance Committee for a bigger discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Attari. Alderwoman Davis.
So just so I understand Attorney Bloomer's statement, that requesting that we send it, requesting that we set the tax rate due to the fact that Mary has to develop bills and get them out timely, and to do a statement or resolution to the school board. I don't disagree with Alderman Attari, but it's going to be very difficult to do that unless we're in City Hall. To do it in this forum is not going to be productive. We have done it before, and may have been pre you being on the board. And to your point that we're a receiving town, should be the fact that we should have a lower tax rate and not a higher tax rate, because we do get money back. And yes, we would not fund $53 million out of the school budget, but we shouldn't also be funding an increase. So I'm willing to do a resolution or type of thing, but I'm just not willing to do nothing.
Thank you, Alderwoman Davis. So Attorney Bloomer, again, real quick, what would your suggested motion be here?
I mean, it would be really up, I guess, to the board. I was feeling like I was just wearing my board hat again there, just giving you maybe more of my policy thoughts. But, you know, I mean, my preference, I guess, would, to Alderwoman Humphrey's point, is maybe to give some deference to the school commissioners that they've, you know, considered various things. But I think requesting of them to, you know, to take a look into whether they can cut anything additionally and what the benefit to the city taxpayers would be in doing so, you know, based on, again, if those numbers are right, it sounds like for every, you know, basically for every 33 cents that we pay, we get another, you know, 66 cents or so from the state. So if we're cutting, or if they're cutting $1 million from their budget, if that's even possible with the state system, you know, we may only be seeing a savings of 1/3 of that on our tax rate. But I guess what I was suggesting is, because sending the statement through voting the rates down is just maybe going to put us in a bind with getting the bills out. And again, I don't think it's going to be ultimately successful in accomplishing anything other than sending the statement. I think it would be a better idea to pass the rates, let Mary go ahead and create the bills, but then have a separate motion where, you know, you've highlighted, you know, the board's frustration with, you know, the homestead and the non-residential rates, and asking the school board if they could, you know, look into, you know, reducing that in some way. And you know, I guess it's not really reporting back to the board because they're not your, you know, they're not really a subsidiary of this this body. But as I said, I think they would, if you asked them, they would respond in some way, and that might, you know, allow the board and the taxpayers to get some satisfaction of what the options are on their side.
Thank you, Attorney Bloomer. Alderman Attore.
So I'm in agreement with what Alderman Bloomer, or City Attorney Bloomer, proposed there. I would say that we might want to also send it to the State House, and perhaps the House Education Committee. You know, that's where those numbers, those are the people who are making the policy that set those rates. So they also need to know that there's a frustration on the municipal level as well.
Thank you, Alderman Attore. So I will entertain a motion from anyone regarding this tax rate. Alderman Attore.
I don't have the numbers in front of me again, so if Mary could read off the residential and non-residential, I'll make a motion to approve.
The non-homestead tax rate is 1.6978, and the homestead tax rate 1.5147.
Move to set the tax rates for the education side as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. It's been seconded. Is there any further discussion or debate? Hearing and seeing none.
Roll call, please, Mr. President.
Absolutely. All right, do a roll call vote. Clerk Heck.
Matt, I lost you for a minute there. Could you just repeat the motion one more time, please?
Yep. The motion is to accept the tax rate as presented by Treasurer Markowski, which has the non-homestead at 1.9678 and 1.697. 1.9678 and 1.5147 for the non-residential. And we are doing a roll call vote.
Is this the school vote? Is that the school vote included?
Yes, the school.
The whole tax rate.
So we've set the municipal tax rate. This is to accept the education portion.
Okay.
Alderman
Includes.
Caruso,
No.
Alderwoman Humphrey,
Yes.
Alderwoman Ryan,
Yes.
Alderman Attore,
Yes.
Alderman Talbot,
Yes.
Alderwoman Mattis,
Yes.
Alderman Gillen,
No.
Alderman Clifford is absent, Alderman DePoy,
No.
Alderwoman Davis,
No.
Buckworth loses.
Purgatory.
Motion fails, 5-4.
Motion to go into an executive session.
Before we go into executive session, is there any other unfinished business? Hearing and seeing none. Miscellaneous motions, resolutions, new business. Prior to executive session,
In case you want to inform us of that.
two things. One, it does appear as Art in the Park is going to be going forward as planned, so look for at our next board meeting that application to come before us. And real quick, I would actually like to refer us back to Thursday, March 26th, Board of Aldermen meeting. As you know, Mayor Allaire is going to be out for a handful of weeks as he gets surgery. Beginning July 23rd with an expected return date of August 15th or the subsequent Monday, which would be August 16th. What we did on Thursday, March 26th is we took a succession vote in the event that people were out sick with COVID. But what we suggested is if the mayor was out or if I were out, who would assume the board presidency? So I'd like to present the idea of during this time where I'm acting mayor, our vote was that Alderwoman Davis would assume the role of board president, followed by Alderman Attore and Alderwoman Humphrey if others would be absent. Wanted to get the board's pleasure on if they wanted to proceed with that vote, and beginning on July 23rd, I would become acting mayor. Alderwoman Davis would become board chair. Alderman DePoy.
I'd like to make a motion to affirm the action of the board taken on March 26th.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. It's been seconded to affirm the action of the board on March 26th regarding succession to the mayor. Is there any discussion or debate on this issue? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Very good. Thank you, everyone. Is there any other miscellaneous motions, resolutions, or new business? Alderman Caruso.
Do we have a link for this executive session? I didn't see it.
Yes. Attorney Bloomer, I believe you sent it out with the memo to executive session.
Yes. Yep. It was, I can't remember what time, maybe around a little after 6.
Okay, I'll go look for it. Thank you.
All right. 6:17 to be precise, Alderman Caruso.
All right, thank you. I'll look.
Alderman Attore.
So,
know anything about it.
So I have I feel like we have to figure out what we're doing about the tax rate still. I don't want to leave Mary hanging that we didn't set that tax rate and what's she going to do about these bills. I don't know who needs to speak to this, but it feels like we're leaving the treasurer, empty-handed there. We didn't do a resolution. We didn't do anything else. And we just, there wasn't enough support to set that tax rate. So how do we move forward here for the treasurer?
Attorney Bloomer, you have any comments on how we might move forward without setting this?
My recommendation would have been to set it. I think we can only bill the municipal now until I guess whenever you get a school rate that you're happy with. So to Mary's point, that's going to mean if we wait 6 months that people are going to get, that huge bill, basically 2 quarters worth of bills in one one bill. We will probably have to pay the money out of the general fund and or borrow because the school, the education fund is going to want that money. So if we don't raise it through taxes, then we'll have to foot the bill some other way. So, I mean, and we don't have a lot of resources to research the issue because I just took $20,000 out of my budget for the reduced municipal tax rate. So, you know, I guess everyone that voted against it has made their point, and I'm sure Gordon will write about it. You could reconsider the vote and set the tax rate and go forward in a different way.
So this is the mayor. I'm going to second what was just said. I think you had a very thorough debate about the issue. I think it's very clear to anyone that was listening and to the reporter who will be writing the story tomorrow about how the board feels. And I think you've made your point. And I would strongly suggest, for all the reasons that have just been stated, that we do move forward, set the tax rate, and then address all those underlying issues with a healthy discussion with either the school board or the superintendent's office, or maybe a combination of all of them, and just let them know, you know, how what we are hearing over here when we interact with our taxpayers. I'm sure that they probably do at some point, but maybe just not as much as we do. And then so we can move the city forward. Double billing, trying to send out two tax bills, not only would it be an inconvenience, but there would be a cost associated with that. And I think it would be a major inconvenience for the taxpayers. So I'm going to strongly suggest that you move ahead as our attorney has just spelled out. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Lair. Alderman DePoy.
I respectfully disagree with that, and here's why. I'm sick of, you know, trying to make points with the school department and their spending. I'm sick to death of making a point. I don't want to make a point. That's not why I am opposed to setting this rate. I'm opposed to setting this rate because it's too high. And it's not incumbent upon us to do anything at this point. We've just made our point. We've said to the school department, we are not happy with what you're spending. And we're the ones that send out the bills. We're the ones that do this. It's not right. Okay. So making a point or seeing results is what I want to do. Is I want to see the results. And it doesn't have to go to 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Let's see tomorrow what the school department does when they don't have a funding mechanism for their for the school department. You know, if what Matt Bloomer is saying is that we can't send out bills, there's no money coming in. Let's see if that gets them back to their table so that they can start talking about the cuts that need to happen. And as Melinda said, you know what? I've got suggestions, but I don't know the budget inside and out either. So I'm not going to start telling them how to, you know, what they need to cut or where they need to trim or where they need to, you know, control their spending. But let's see tomorrow when they wake up and they see that their budget has not been funded, what they do about it. It doesn't have to go to December, January, or February, or anything like that, as Attorney Bloomer said. I don't want to see it go that far, but I do want to see some results this week. It's only Monday. Let's see what Tuesday brings with that school department and their spending and, you know, their tax rate, which is too high.
Thank you, Alderman DePoy. Alderman Gillum. Alderman, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
I did some research this afternoon looking at X 46, I believe, which is the education bill. I believe the commissioner of taxes can override us, but I do not know that for a fact. I need to do more research and call a couple of representatives to figure that out. But I believe he does have, or she does have the power to override our decisions to set the tax rate. So not sure, but we're going to check that out.
Alderman Torrey.
I'm sorry.
Just procedural, Attorney Bloomer, if I remember correctly, in a motion to reconsider has to come from the majority. Am I correct on that?
We had this issue a handful of meetings ago. It's generally supposed to be from the non-prevailing side. So, the folks that I guess were voting in a way that did not allow it to happen would be reconsidering the way that they voted is how I would interpret it. But
it's got to come from it has to come from the prevailing side. The prevailing side was the motion lost. So those that voted against the motion, that's where it's got to come from.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, the question is, the second also has to come from that side?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So I'll speak for myself. I have no intention of trying to cause some issues for our treasurer or the collection, but I don't disagree with Alderman DePoy that, and I do disagree with Alderman Humphrey that there is a disconnect. I have no problem reconsidering, but I don't know if there's going to be a second from these fellow aldermen. But I do think there has to be some kind of a message sent that there's people are hurting in this city, whether they're residential taxpayers or businesses trying to succeed. And as stated before, the municipal side between the mayor, the department heads, and this board are connected and understand the impact that COVID has had and took the initiative to take away that hurt. And as I stated in speaking with a school commissioner today, was unaware of what the tax rate was for the school side. So you can't be connected and not know what the tax rate is. I mean, it's not possible. So there is a disconnect. Where it is, why it is in their process, and they have to address how what their process is and how they get closer to a tax rate and knowing the impact. But I will move to reconsider based on the information that I had stated, not wishing to cause a concern to the treasurer. I don't necessarily disagree with Alderman Gillum. I think I have a feeling the state's going to set the homestead and non-homestead rate anyways, but I don't know that, so I won't argue that. But I'll move to reconsider.
Can I interrupt? It's Mary. I don't know. Can I speak?
Sure.
I would really urge you to please set the rate. I clearly know your frustration. I hear from taxpayers all of the time who can't afford the taxes in the city. So I certainly know the frustration.
Second.
The logistics of doing this and holding out for I don't know how long just is not going to help the taxpayers at the end.
I believe Alderman Garuso second.
I second it, Mr. Chairman. I really don't want to mess the treasurer up either. This is a real mess, and we could debate it all night. And I don't think anyone's wrong here, but it's a nightmare that we need to make go away.
Thank you, Treasurer Markowski and Alderman Garuso. So we've had a motion to reconsider, and it's been seconded. Here's a comment real quick. I will just go ahead and initiate a roll call vote for this. I'll turn it over to clerk.
So the roll call will be for a motion to reconsider the question. isn't for the actual vote of the question. This is to reconsider the question. Alderman Garuso,
Yes.
Alderwoman Humphrey,
Yes.
Alderwoman Ryan,
Yes.
Alderman Attore,
Yes.
Alderman Talbot,
Yes.
Alderwoman Mattis,
Yes.
Alderman Gillum,
No.
Alderman Clifford is absent. Alderman DePoy,
No.
Alderwoman Davis,
Reluctantly, yes.
7-2. Considered.
All right, passes to consider 7-2.
And I'll put the motion back on the floor. Well, I don't know if I do. That's procedurally. I think the motion's back on the floor initially, just to reaffirm the education tax rate.
Well, it's a motion would be to set the non-homestead and the tax rate. That was the original.
Right.
Did attorney do anything different, or is it just back on the floor?
I'm not positive, actually. I don't have my handy Robert's Rules book with me at home.
I'll move it. Sure.
Second.
I don't know what she said.
Should move the original.
Move the motion, Henry.
Yep.
And Alderman Attore seconded. Is there any discussion or debate on the motion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll initiate a roll call vote for this. Clerk Heck?
Alderman Garuso,
Under protest, yes.
Alderwoman Humphrey,
Yes.
Alderwoman Ryan,
Yes.
Alderman Attore,
Yes.
Alderman Talbot,
Yes.
Alderwoman Mattis,
Yes.
Alderman Gillum,
No.
Alderman Clifford is absent. Alderman DePoy,
No.
Alderwoman Davis,
Yes.
6 or 7-2. Motion passes.
Motion passes 7-2.
And I have a motion to request that the chair pen a letter to the school commissioners on our behalf, stating the concerns that were raised this evening, and maybe suggesting that we have an opportunity at some point to get together to talk about, air these concerns and how we move forward previous to setting next year's tax rate.
Second.
Motion's been seconded. Alderwoman Mattis.
I like Alderman Attore's suggestion about 15 minutes ago that this message also be sent to the state. I'm wondering if Alderman Davis would be willing to add the appropriate address to get the same concern to the state. Thank you.
Certainly. I will include that in the motion. So local school commissioners and our state representatives.
And I'll second the new motion.
Point of order.
Alderman Gillum?
What's the time certain on that letter? Should there be a time certain in that motion?
For next year.
Well, I think, if I may, Alderman Gillum, I don't see that anything's going to change for this budget year. So I believe the request was that we send it. The legislature will not be re-adjourning for a period of time. We can certainly send it out sooner, but I'd like it set prior to, I'd like the discussions to happen certainly prior to setting next year's tax rate.
All right, so a motion has been seconded that the Chair of the board will draft a letter on behalf of the board regarding the concerns as related to the school tax rate, and will send to the school commissioners as well as the legislature. Is there any further discussion or debate on this issue? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other miscellaneous motions, resolutions, or new business to come before the board? Hearing, seeing none, Attorney Bloomer, do you have an executive session?
Yes, the first motion would be to find that premature general public knowledge regarding pending litigation to which the city is a party would clearly place the city at substantial disadvantage because the discussion will divulge the city's strategy in such pending litigation and will include confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the city.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Have a motion, seconded. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Attorney Bloomer?
Motion to enter into executive session with the inclusion of the city attorney, treasurer, and mayor to discuss pending litigation as allowed under Title I, Section 313A1E and Title I, Section 313A1F.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. I will see you all in the executive session.